But let's say we wanted to just put a little jump or something, some little movement somewhere in between that still span. So what I'm going to do is go to like frame 45 or 46 and do the up arrow, down arrow to set a new property keyframe for both the C, A, and T. Now I'm going to position the playhead out on, say, frame 45 and do the same thing. I'm going to select the 3 letters and move them up and down. Sometimes you sort of lose things. So I'm kind of interested in finding my motion editor and I don't see it. So what I do is I just go to Window, Workspace, and Reset Essentials. That's one of my favorite commands. Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. Everything is cleaned up for me. If I select that middle span of the C and go over to the Property Inspector and put Rotate 3 times clockwise, it's good, but what's going to happen is that C is going to rotate 3 times all the way from 15 to 110. And all I want is to have a rotation between 45 and 55. That's why this splitting motion is so important. Sometimes you just want a motion in one area. And in order to do it in the best way, you want to split your different portions of motion into distinct spans. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to command click on frame 46 of the C layer and go to split motion and frame 56 as well. I'm going to do that for the C, A, and T layers. So basically I'm going to have a separate little motion span that I can do my rotating on. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate the C, the A, and the T, and you can do it different numbers of times and also different directions. CW stands for clockwise, CCW is counterclockwise. Actually, I'm not going to rotate the T, but I'm going to move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 50 and select the T layer and do the up and down thing with the arrow keys. This will put a new property keyframe, and then I'll just move the T up. So what's going to happen is from 45 to 55, the T is just going to move up and back to its original location. In addition to animating text, you can animate images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer, name it image, and drag it to the bottom. I want it underneath all the letters. I don't want this picture, it's ultimately going to be a picture of a cat, but I don't want it to show up until later on in my animation. So I'm going to go out to about frame 100, command click on frame 100 of this new image layer, and right click and go to insert blank keyframe. You have to have a keyframe in order to put any visual content into Flash. I'm going to go to File and Import to Library and import a picture I have of a cat. So I look for the folder where I have my cat and I click Import to Library. The cat comes in as a PNG file, or if it had been a JPEG, it would have been a JPEG. But in order to really do much with it, again, you want it to be inside a symbol. So I'm going to go to Insert, New Symbol, and create a new movie clip and just name it Cat. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at the cat timeline. In order to get into a symbol timeline, you simply go over to the library and double click on the icon of that symbol, the icon being the little picture. So if you look at the word cat in your library, to the left of it is a little blue and white icon. And if you ever want to open up that cat symbol, double click on that icon. I now will drag my PNG file and place it inside my cat symbol. Up on the upper left, I'm going to click Scene 1, so I go back to the main timeline. And I have my playhead has selected that blank keyframe on the image layer, and I'm going to just drag the cat symbol to the stage. And you'll see the cat there underneath the letters. It already has the same number of frames out to the end. In other words, I don't have to add frames. It just assumes I'm going to want the same number of frames as I had for the rest of my layer. So there's a frame already out there on frame 133. So I'm just going to right click on that and go to Create Motion Tween. I'll put another property frame on about frame 121. You can always adjust where these things go later. So again, I just position the playhead, select the cat, and up arrow, down arrow, and it should put a property keyframe there. I'm going to drag the edge of the span, the right-hand edge, all the way out to 160. I think I want my cat to show up for a while after the words go away. So my whole animation now is going to be a little over 5 seconds. 30 frames per second, 30 into 160 is a little over 5. On frame 160, I'm going to do that up, down thing with the arrow to put another property keyframe. Basically what I want is, again, for my cat, I want 3 sections. I want a section where it's going to show up, a section where you look at it for a while, and a section where it goes away. You want a beginning keyframe and then property keyframes for the end of each section. I'm going to go ahead and split the motion after these keyframes. So I'm going to command click after each one and split motion. So now my motion path is divided into 3 distinct areas. The first, the cat will arrive. The second, the cat will be there for a while. And the third, the cat will disappear. So I've selected the first span, and as you see, I've opened up the motion editor. I'm going to make the cat 34% scale, so he's going to start out small. I'm going to make him invisible by making his alpha 0%, and I'll put a 35 pixel blur on him. Then I'm going to scrub over to the end of this section, and I'll make the scale 100%, the alpha 100%, and make the blur 0. So the cat will be little blurry and transparent. And then he moves into position, he gets less blurry, more opaque, and his normal size. How do I make the cat disappear? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that third span, and I'm going to go to the very end and just make his scale 0. So he's going to go from 100%, his normal size, down to 0. So he'll just shrink into oblivion. Now, of course, we should have done this long time ago, but let's go ahead and go to File and Save. You're going to save it wherever you choose to save it, and this is going to create a flash file. To create the shockwave, basically what you can do is to go to Control and Test Movie. But to get the really good shockwave, you need to publish it. And what do I mean by really good shockwave? Well, for one thing, the font I'm using in this is a kind of an unusual font called Mom's Typewriter. And if you publish this, the font will be embedded. So I'm going to go to File, Publish Settings, and I'm going to pick Flash, SWF, and HTML. These are the 2 files I'd need to actually have this go on the internet. Once you select the type of files you want to publish, then just go ahead at the bottom and click the word Publish. Now this cat demo is a fairly simple one, but it gives you the basic tools to do all sorts of very complex motion designs. And my hope is that being good at graphic design, you guys will be able to do amazing things. So all the basic building blocks are in this tutorial, and it's just a matter of you taking these building blocks and building something spectacular.